Panic stations! I've knackered me transmitter! Oh, wow! Let me just set the scenario. I was there on the flight line, twiddling me sticks, and the next thing I knew that my aileron gimbal broke. So imagine you're trying to fly around and your gimbal's doing that. Yeah, wow. That was not fun, and want to say a massive thank you to T9 Hobby Sport for sending the stuff out literally next day. I ordered it yesterday and it's turned up this morning. Now you will notice that it's the rudder stick which is gone and there's no spring left in it. And that's because on the flight line I took the back off and then switched them over so I could fly, and then I disabled the rudder in a couple of models so I could carry on and go and fly them. Now, yeah, very disconcerting. It was really funny actually because I was on the flight line next to Andy and we were chatting away. I think I was flying the Bixler at the time, and he heard the twang as well. Never even knew that there would ever be an issue, and the gimbals which I'm using in here are the upgraded Hall effect ones, so kind of makes the point on how much I use my Taranis for me to go on and wear out a spring in it. So that's what we're going to be doing in this episode. I've also been and bought the a replacement switch for the top right hand corner. This one is also gone a bit wonky, to say the least. As you can see, I can spin it around in circles. That's probably not a good thing. And I've lost the ring off that one. Although, if I was really smart, then I wouldn't have bought that one and taken the ring off that one and put it on that one and not bought a separate three-way switch. But obviously, I'm not that smart. Right, with that said, let's go and get ourselves zoomed in, because I'm guessing some of you have never seen inside a Taranis before. And the thing is that you shouldn't be scared of doing this, because it's really not that hard to do. So the first thing we're going to do for the obvious one is go and get the battery disconnected. Now, a side note here is that I am using the Hobby King Lifey, this pack here. I'll put a link to it in the video description. Absolutely brilliant. I've got 2 of these and they will last 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 flying sessions. Massive upgrade to the Taranis. So in fact, now that I've said that, I think what I'm going to do is do a separate video on them because I have had them here for, well, I would say about 3 years actually. So there's nothing quite like doing a 3-year review on something which you know is going to be good. Now we need to get in now. I've got a Phillips screwdriver. The only thing which you can probably screw up is that we lose the screws somewhere. So I will be going a little bit careful with that. So we're going to pop those out, and I'll tell you what, just keep this sensible. I'm going to put the screws over there in the back panel, so we know where they are. And I already know that the 2 at the back, at the top, won't come out fully anyway. They were a little bit reluctant to come all the way out. I think that's because they're in there so far. So we're going to get these ones out of the way. Oh, I'll also go and remove the memory card as well. I don't know why, but I have a 32 gig memory card in here, which some might say is a tad excessive. It was obviously all I had at the time. Oh, in fact, if I remember correctly, I had issues with the memory on this one. Originally, the memory card which it came with just kept getting corrupted. So yeah, that's why I probably changed it over to a decent quality one. So that was the memory card which came with it. The Taranis itself, I paid 200 quid for, the best part, and it came with a metal case and everything. I actually bought mine from eBay, and actually now looking back in hindsight, it's probably been one of the best investments I have actually made into this hobby. In fact, along with the Fat Shark V3s, 2 items which I've used every single time I've gone flying. And besides this minor issue of a spring going and me wearing out switches, there you go. I've used it so much that I've worn the switches out. I don't think I can give anything more of a positive review than that. Is that I've genuinely been very, very impressed with it. I always remember my dad spending an arm and a leg on Fataba kit, and it was just so expensive. And it still is so expensive now, when really for FR Sky just completely own the market, and for very good reason why. Because their kit's very good. Right, I need to undo that one there a little bit, and again, if it was you, you'd have to undo that side as well. Now I believe this is going to come apart and open up, and there's those screws just falling out. Okay, so here's the inside of the Taranis. We'll take a quick look now. We've got both of the gimbals here. They should be pretty obvious, and yeah, you can see that one's moving around too freely, and we've got a spring over here in the bag. The spring cost me £1.20 and the switches cost me about £2. I think all in all it came in at £8, and I'm never going to grumble about repairing something for £8 considering how much of a lifespan I've already had out of it. So I am genuinely impressed with this. Oh, that's a little bit annoying. I have just been noticed I'm going to have to get the soldering iron out to repair one of the switches. So I think what I'm going to do is that instead of repairing that switch, what I'm going to do, the one in the top right hand corner, all I'm going to do is just nick the little metal clasp off that one and put on there. So that one's fixed, because again, if it's not broke, I'm not going to fix it. The other switch, this long one, is definitely broken, and I used this one, well, I was using it an awful lot, because it was, when it was up, I had a fixed FPV camera, and then when it was in the middle, it would switch to a rear facing camera, and then when I had it all the way down, that's when I had pan and tilt from the pan and tilt. So that's how I set up my FPV switcher, is that I have the one camera on that one, reverse camera on that one, and then that camera goes back to the forward facing one, and you get pan and tilt. Really cool, really also really simple to set up, and I'll show you how to do that in a later video, but I am going to go on and repair that one. However, we were having a quick nose around. Okay, so what we got here, we've got our switches up here, we've got a little speaker just in here as well. The gimbals are kind of obvious. Now, a little tip for you, let me zoom right in for these. Those of you which are considering perhaps upgrading your gimbals to the Hall Effect ones, which is I would suggest definitely doing it. It really is just a couple of screws and off you go. It really is child's play to do it. However, a massive tip for you is that don't forget to put a little dab of hot glue where the wires connect to the board. I was quite concerned about the amount of movement which I would make on these gimbals, as you can see there, and I wanted to make sure these wires would stay in there permanently, and that has worked out really, really well. You will also notice everything really is just these plugs, really straightforward, which we've got here. Now we've got the main screen, the LCD board underneath that. I have had an issue with not with the LCD itself, although I've got a line all the way going through it, which I pretty much ignore. I have had an issue with the buttons, but that is an issue of wear more than failure. If that makes sense, it's a fair amount. It's going to happen with a large amount of usage, which this Taranis has had. Then we've got the main transmitter module here on the back. So this is where it takes your stick symbol, and there's your transmitter board. Now you'll notice that I have not modified, and I will also never, ever, ever modify my antenna, because while it may sound like a good idea to change your antenna up to maybe a 5 dB gain antenna, it really is rolling the dice on the longevity of the device, and I think that's why mine's lasts 3 years, because I've just never been tempted to do that. And of course, with the incarnation of the TBS Crossfire kit, I have absolutely zero requirement for that anyway. So hey ho, that's what we're getting on with so far. So I really want to get that spring in there because it is so, well, you don't even want to know how bad it is trying to fly when you don't even have, when the stick just won't center itself. It's just absolutely awful. Now this is going to be a real challenge to get that in there. I don't even think I'm going to be able to get this on the camera for you. I'm going to give it a go, but don't shout at me for leaving my phone on over there and it going ping in the background. Let me pop that up there. What I need to do is, and again, if this was you, A, rescue the old spring out of your transmitter, but B, it should be really obvious that you've got this bit just flapping around. It could be here, or it could be on the opposite side, or it could be one of the vertical ones as well. Obviously with that side I've got the throttle, and that's why we've got that metal bar there. So I need to get that in, down on the bottom, and this is really hard trying to stay out of the way of the camera, but it is very tricky.
2 hours later.
Wow, that was not fun at all. I'm on the home straight now. What I had to do was actually undo these 3 screws on the top of the gimbal. So there's one there, one there, and one there. And then that allowed me access to the retaining pin so that I could then get on in there and put the spring in and then hook it over the gimbal. So brilliant, we've now got, that is now recentering, and I took the original, sorry, the one which broke has already gone in the bin, but what I did on the flight line was I took the spring off the rudder and then put it on the ailerons because that was more important, and now today I've just been and replaced the one on the rudder. So yeah, happy days. That was a little bit of a fight. I'm not complaining, it is literally what it is. Because I've worn it out. I've used it so much I snapped a spring. I think that's quite a nice story to tell on what I really think about the Taranis. I do feel it's that good. So I've just got the pliers on there to undo this front. So I can get on the front of here to undo the other switch, which I've got an issue with. Now I do have an issue with one of the gimbals as well. Now I need to make sure I get this the right way round. So it's brown on top, so can't go wrong here, can we? One would say. I do have an issue with one of the sliders on the right hand side slider, as in it goes past its limits. So it will go, it stops there, but then goes all the way round and doesn't stop. I'm not that bothered about that, and I did look at them and they were £8, so that kind of detracted me from doing that. I'll do that at a later date, to be honest. Because I only use it for pan and tilt, and even then I'm not that bothered about it because I'm going literally from one extreme to another. Right, so that is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Where's our bag of spare parts? There we go. Hello, beautiful. Right, so I need to make sure, and this is the biggest tip for you, so that we make sure we get this the right way round, which it looks like there's a plastic shroud which needs to go on the top. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put that to one side a moment. And which way round does this go? Like that. Right. So I am going to do brown on, and then that's where I've got there. So I need to go and get the soldering iron out. Not difficult to do at all. All I'm going to do is pre-tin each of those. You can hardly see, can you? Let me zoom you in. There we go. We get the right way in. Right, so all I'm going to do is pre-tin these 3, if it ever focuses. Come on. Focus. Thank you. I'm just going to pre-tin these 3 ends with the soldering iron and then just dab off there, and it should be as easy as that. But that's the orientation in which I want with that end at the top. So it will be where it says 2A and 5A on the switch. This top one, that's the top one, which needs to go in like that. So that way I get the same orientation and I don't inadvertently put it in the wrong way round. Right, so I'm going to go and grab the soldering iron. This shouldn't take more than 2 minutes to do. Well, it would take longer for the soldering. Oh, there's the soldering iron. Dead straightforward to do. Right, let's get to it. Now, I really must go and get myself one of those, what do they call it? The helping hands, isn't it? I've lost my helping hands. Well, I haven't lost my helping hands, I've blooming worn them out. Here's the honest answer to that. The little grabbers on the end just completely wore out. Here on my desk, oh look! 5 of those turned up in the post this week. Cannot wait to get round to getting those in the skies, because those 5 are going to be something special, and of course I got another dozen of them on the way to me as well. So you may be wondering, what am I doing here? And all I've got is a flux pen. If you've never used one of these before, absolutely brilliant. They make soldering a real joy because it just stops the oxidization, and it just makes the solder absolutely fly. Now I'm sure somebody is not going to complain at me today, because I've just been and spotted that over on the side. I've got my nib cleaner. Now, going slightly off topic while this soldering iron's warming up, is that I know some people out there absolutely love spending, or quite fancy the idea of buying one of those TS100 soldering irons. And I am just walking around to see if I can find the blowtorch to see if I can expedite this process, which I can't see, so I'm going to have to wait for it. With the soldering iron, I personally bought, and I would only ever buy, the cheapest soldering iron possible. And this one was $7.99 from Screwfix, literally just up the road. And then I nipped onto Amazon and bought some Silverline tips, and this is still the original tip which I put in there, because the original one which came with it was rubbish, and I swapped it out for some Silverline tips for about three or £4, if that. And I've ended up with an absolutely stonking soldering iron that just is super cheap. I can leave on sometimes for more than a day, and then just not really care about, to be honest. If I'm using it to plunge holes into models, to make something or something like that, it just really doesn't matter. And it's got one temperature setting, which is really hot, and it's the one which melts the solder. So I'm super impressed with that. And it's going to work for everything. Landed. What was that? Oh, that was the Rare Bear falling off the desk over there. Classy. Right, so what I'm going to do, make sure I've got this the right way around. So I've been in pre-tinned. So you'll see on there, I've got put some solder on those parts already. And I need to get this the right way round. So that's the right way round. And I'm going to go, once I've got the first wire in, then we're laughing because all the rest are all just straightforward. So I'm just going to get a bit of heat in there. Right. And then I need to get this one up here. In fact, can I poke that in the hole? Yeah, there we go. I'll poke that one in the hole. Just doubly make sure I've got this the right way round. Which I'd had it the wrong way round. Yeah, there we go. I had that the wrong way round. There's nothing wrong with double checking stuff. And then I'm just going to solder that in situ, which, come on, beautiful. What we need to do is just dab it in there and then hold it still. Brilliant. That's that one done. It does already come with some heat shrink on it, which I'm frankly just going to reuse. And then we got yellow and red, so I don't think I can screw up here. So I'm going to just hold on to the yellow one, unsolder it. There we go. Just go and grab the red one and unsolder that as well. So while I'm here, let's go and get the yellow one done. If it goes in there, come on, beautiful. I'm trying to save you. There we go. There we go. Just giving it a quick blast of air, a little blow of air to help the solder set. There we go. Brilliant job done. Patient looks like it might have been and survived. If we go and take a look here at the old switch, oh, I can. Yeah, I've really worn that out. Can you see? Let me put my hand so if I can hold this. Not very well. I'm trying to use my. I've been a bent. That's how much I've been and used it. I've been a bent. Wow. I've actually bent the stalk itself, and I've been damaged in here, in this hole in the top as well. That is how much I've used pan and tilt. I really have been out of sorts lately without my pan and tilt, but it kind of still worked. I just never got round to fixing it here in the transmitter. So, yay, happy in days. Now, do I need to check on that? They all look fine. They're not falling off here in my hands. I'll just push. Well, they came with heat shrink, but they're nowhere near each other to go and get done, are they? To short out on anything. So I think they're going to be fine. I'm quickly going to twist those back up to twist the wires the right way. Remember, it was brown on the top, wasn't it? There we go. Poke that back through its hole. And I should be a little bit more careful than what I was being there, because we had the, whatchamacallit, so we've got those ribbon cables, which are the delicate ones, and we do need to be a little bit careful on those, because they can undo themselves and cause very weird issues if they do come loose. Right, this is absolute faff. Let's get that on there. I'm going to put the switch in. Oh, that feels so much better, so much better. So I'm just doing this up with a pair of pliers, and then I'll get it angled right in there and then do it up really, really tight afterwards. I'm sure there's some special way which you could do with the screwdriver, or a screwdriver to get these in there permanently, but let's do this round. There we go. Doing that up as tight as I dare. And I tell you what, while I'm here, what I'm also going to do, I'm just going to tighten up the switch next to it as well, because I don't really want, well, it just makes sense to do it while I'm here. We'll do it and we'll do them up. There you can see, they all need tightening up just a touch. That one's just fallen out. I'll sort that one out in just a moment. Brilliant. Right, there we go, home straight. So let's get that switch sat back in that side. Come on, girl. Yeah, you just sit just there. We've got the other one which wasn't and is now sat back in there. And we're on the home straight now. I did buy another switch while I was at it, but I'm not going to replace it because the switch isn't broken. It does work very reliably, and of course we got to remember if something's not broken, then there's no point trying to fix it. And I think that's probably my biggest advice, or my biggest tip when it comes to the actual Taranis, is because if you, I'm sure you, I'll mention the channel. Say Painless 360, for example, we are painted the picture that, and on other channels as well, it's just not Painless 360, it's on the other YouTube channels as well. We're told that the latest software updates are the way to go forwards, and I can tell you, I am using a very, very old version of the software here on the Taranis, and I can also tell you is that for the past 3 years, well, the past 2 years, I have not used the OpenTX desktop software. Everything which I've done, all settings, etc., have all been done in the transmitter itself. And while it always seems like a good idea, that or really cool, that you could perhaps go and change a setting by connecting your transmitter to the computer, actually, I soon quickly worked out that was an absolute complete waste of time. And what I really needed, and perhaps for yourself as well, was to be able to do that in the transmitter, because you might need to do that. That was that screw making a noise. Because when you need to know it, and you won't have a computer there on the flight line. So it's better off that you actually get it done and dusted and learn how to do whatever setting you need to make in the transmitter, rather than having to rely on a piece of desktop software. Of course, it's actually really straightforward to do. So, right, last 2 screws and we're on the home straight. Brilliant. So what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. Changing that spring was a complete challenge. See, kept it family friendly, not very enjoyable to do at all. So let's go and get this one up as well. Wow, those screws feel like they just go on forever. And I still got to do that one up as well. Come on. They're about 1 inch long. Right, happy days. Let's get these 2 switches, SG and SE. Let's get these tightened up as well, because they were both coming undone. So I'm just doing that up nice and tight. Let's get this, again, I'll do it finger tight first. There we go. Do that one up and nice and tight. Tell you what, while I'm here, I'm going to do the ones at the back as well. Just a simple bit of maintenance for all my transmitter. Now, some of you may have noticed the guard on the back, this stand. Absolutely brilliant. I can't remember exactly where I got it from. In fact, I'm going to do a separate video on that as well. But it has been a fantastic upgrade for me, because I'm here able to set up stuff on the desk, and there it's at the perfect angle for me. Wow, that feels so much better. So much better. Right, yeah, I'm super happy about that now. And it has been a really worthwhile upgrade, and the other reason why it's been such a really worthwhile upgrade is because of the TBS Crossfire module which I've got in the back, because it keeps it safe. It's not getting knocked by anything, and I always know that it is clipped in and it will work, because it's got that guard on the back of it. So that has worked out really well. Let's go and plug that in. There we go. Should really turn that soldering iron off as well, because I can feel it here warming up the office. It's that cold in here today. Right, let's get that in there. Brilliant. Let's just tuck these wires in here as well. So yeah, my biggest tip when it comes to the Taranis, besides getting this back piece, it's just well, my biggest tips, should I say, don't bother upgrading the software, because if it works, it works. Number 2, get yourself a Li-Fi battery. And number 3, get yourself one of these stands on the back. Really does make it very much more enjoyable to enjoy. Right.
Switch warning.
Cool. Yes.
Stabilization off. Horizon.
So under
Engine off. Low rate.
So that's called the Amber mod. That's what all the voices are. Now I need to quickly whip in here because I did cheat, so I could carry on and fly the models on Sunday, which is that I did change all the weights down to 0, and I'm now here just chucking them back up to 100, so I know that they work, and I did it for that model. So you'll notice I am absolutely flying around in this menu and not really explaining what I'm doing other than me saying that I've changed the weight on these items. And the reason for that is that once you get used to the Taranis, it is actually very simple to get your head around it and what settings you need to change. So I'm quickly whipping down here to find the Bixler because I'm pretty sure I changed that.
Switch warning. Engine off. Low rates.
Page. Yeah, been in that one there as well. I need to change that rudder. So yeah, bit of a pain, but I was able to work around it on the flight line, and there we go, all done. She's working again. Like I said, I don't know if you can see them. Well, it's very hard to tell that I do have one row of pixels out on my screen, and some of these buttons are getting a little bit awkward to press now. However, this Taranis is 3 years old. It has worked absolutely fantastically until a couple of days ago. In fact, I think I had an issue. I can't remember I had another issue with it, and I couldn't fly for the rest of the day. I've forgotten what it was now. And the thing is that on that day I said I'm not going to complain. How could I complain? I'd had like 2.5 years worth flying out of it without a single issue. Then we had one of the spring snaps in one of the gimbals, and of course I'd also worn out a switch as well. That is nice and shiny in there now, that's for sure. And I'd lost one of the little metal retaining clips over there. And how could you complain when something like this, which was it was 200 quid, and I've used it. I just think how many flights I've had with this transmitter. Absolutely unreal. You can see, look, I've worn off the plastic covering on the sides. That's how much I've used this transmitter. And then to spend 8 quid to repair it, I think is an absolute bargain. And anyway, on that note, I want to say a big thank you to T9 Hobby Sport. I nipped onto their website. They carry a full range of parts and etc., all replacement parts and all accessories for the Taranis and several others of the FR Sky products. Now, just to make this fully aware, I bought those parts, replacement parts, out of my own money, and this video is definitely not sponsored or supported by T9 Hobby Sport. I use them when I need parts. And I ordered those parts yesterday here in the UK, and they turned up here with Mr. Postman today. In fact, even if they turned up tomorrow, I would have still been a very happy camper as well. So yeah, big shout out to T9 Hobby Sport. I'll put a link to their website. By the way, it's a non-affiliate link to T9 Hobby Sport underneath this video description, down in the video description, because time in and time again, they have been super reliable when I've needed things for the Taranis or receivers and things like that. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. I do appreciate that. So it's time for me to wrap up. I hope that you've enjoyed the little chit chat here at the workbench. We've been a swap to switch over. I'm genuinely happy to say to you that I've been and worn out a switch on my Taranis. I even broken my gimbals, and I've done that through sheer use. How good of a problem that is. So yeah, very, very impressed with the Taranis, and also very impressed with the service which I got from T9 Hobby Sports. So again, thumbs up for those guys. On that note, I'm going to leave you a question. Do you own a Taranis? And if so, what do you think of it? And by the way, if you don't own a Taranis and maybe you own a different brand, let me know what transmitter you are using and what you think of it down in the comment section underneath this video, because I would love to hear your feedback. As you can tell, I'm personally very impressed with the Taranis from FR Sky. But you may be equally impressed with your transmitter, so do let me know what your thoughts are, and you can do that in the comment section underneath this video. Right, it is time for me to wrap up. I would like to say a massive thank you to you for taking the time to watch this episode. Remember, if it is your first time here, I'm Matt. Howdy, welcome aboard. Don't forget to press the red subscribe button underneath this video, and crucially to press the bell icon so that YouTube notifies you when the next episode is out. By the way, I'm going to give you a little hint. I am going to do a newbie guide to the Taranis very, very shortly, where we cut out all the BS and just focus on the practical stuff which you would want to know on a day-to-day basis. So look out on a little mini series on that very shortly, because like there's me cuddling it, because me and my Taranis, we've had some very, very funny adventures. Anyway, from myself, Matt, cheerios!